Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming back to watch this, the second video in our series about fights in tight spaces. Today, we're going to be talking about marketing and trailers. I'm Paul from Mode 7, and with me in the other window is...
Hi, I'm Connie. I am the marketing and video editor at Shatter.
Marvelous. Well, thank you for joining me today. So the first thing I thought we could talk about is how the trailer kind of came together, because you were responsible for the trailer kind of throughout, really capturing the footage and editing.
Mm.
And we sort of ended up with a trailer that was a little bit different from the one that we started with, or sort of the sort of early footage. And I thought it'd be interesting to talk about that process. So firstly, I wanted to ask you, how was it capturing footage of the game at this stage? There were some challenges you had to kind of deal with that, I think.
Yeah, it was a process for sure. I'm quite used to like capturing the footage like on my own because I did it for Rico. Most difficult part I found was re-recording everything because
Mm.
it was quite a long process and we kept having things being changed and
Right,
bugs
right.
to be fixed because I remember I had a really good shot of the camera revolving around the Fitz guy, and then there was a bit of a culling issue just in the background. It's in the bathroom in the
Yeah.
restroom scene. So that was,
That
yeah.
was that was one where, as I was giving feedback on some of those scenes, I was really just like, oh, I know,
Yeah.
like, because everyone has this experience on trailers, right? If you nail the content, like, and sometimes there's a bug in the background or something, it
Yeah.
is the most painful thing. So I think one of the, as we're going to talk about this process, like, one of the most important things on it was your persistence of like coming
Mm.
back and getting the shots over and over again whenever it was needed, which was hugely appreciated. But it's something that people don't kind of factor in time wise, I think,
Mm.
when they're doing trailers. And the thing is, that stuff, people always notice, because people, especially YouTube kind of commenters, will always pull that stuff apart. So
100%.
yeah, it's just being conscious of it is difficult. So the trailer that we started with, I think it might be cool if we get some footage of that, perhaps over this bit.
Mm.
Was very action heavy, and that was good because it kind of it gave people that impact to get them into the game. So if you can remember that far back, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Because you had that the subway car kind of section first, and then there were a lot of montage stuff. Yeah, do you remember anything from that, or is it all a huge blur?
Yeah, I do vaguely remember it. I think because I was so used to how Rico trailers worked, where there's literally no narrative, you just kick the door and shoot in different places.
Right.
And like I'm really into like AMV, the anime music videos where it's Linkin Park and Dragon Ball Z characters like punching each other, and
Wailing on
there's
each
no
other. Yeah.
meaning to any of it. I was just basically in that headset of, well, you just got to punch these people and it'll look amazing, like in my mind. But obviously, it looked amazing in its own way. But we found a good balance of having a structure and narrative. But I'm trying to remember how it was because to get used to the whole punching and then cutting, that what's that word? What's the editing term? It's wait there. Maybe wrote it down somewhere.
Oh, you've stumped me now. I want to know this. The
Oh,
only one I know
where
is
is it?
match cut, so I just say
Uh,
that.
Impact. Either way, it's like Jackie Chan films do it a lot. They'll cut
Right.
before the impact and then they'll show the impact again. That was something I hadn't
Yes.
learned until
Right.
starting the trailer. That was something you do. You always think you just like, when do you cut when there's a punch?
Yeah.
Like it's just things like that that I learned that I hadn't, learned previously. Because I'm self-taught, so I learned all of these things just just looking and
Right.
YouTube
Yeah. No,
mainly.
I think a lot of people are, especially when it comes to game trailers, because obviously
Mm.
there's a lot of sort of solo developers or small teams out there kind of doing it themselves. And I think noticing like those little tricks like that can be really, really helpful. Something I noticed that worked, that we kept in right through to the end, were some of those transitions. So you've got stuff like the flash kick when the character jumps in the air, and you kind of use his trousers almost to like kind of mat out
That's
to
like
the
my
next
favorite
thing.
transition.
Yeah, that one's really, really slick and really nice. And there's another one where you follow the motion of the punch across with a wipe.
Mm.
It's just stuff like that that really kind of, it just takes it to that next level of like, oh, there's real intention behind this. So that kind of thing's quite nice, and it doesn't have to be, ultra complicated to do. So we had this material that you'd put together of sort of very actiony stuff. And to my mind, as sort of the person publishing this game, thinking about how to get people in, it's good to kind of open with something of that genre to just like give them that
Yeah.
attention. So you came up with this, the characters bursting in on the protagonist as the first scene. What was the thought there? Because I think it was we kind of struggled to find the right content for that, right? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think this opening shot here, if you've got it open, it
yeah,
took a lot of times for us to get right. There's a lot of clips which I can pop on screen here
great.
of me trying to do it manually, me like trying to. I did a lot of camera trickery. There was one old version where I have our main character taking a step forward and I
Yeah,
culled him and then moved him backwards to make it look like he had walked into the room when he actually didn't. He just did a step forward normally.
yeah,
I did so
nice.
many like different tricks and everything, but eventually we got help from the art team to do a proper full entrance,
Yeah,
which we're
that's
happy
cool,
with.
and it's really effective. And what I wanted to go for here was establishing that who is the protagonist and what are they facing, and it's
Mm.
something that kind of it seems obvious if you know the game, but this is going to be someone's first encounter with it. So it's that sort of intention and obstacle idea was the thing I kept constantly banging on about, and that really does it. And that shot is I'm just trying to work out how long that is. It's less than 5 seconds, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think it's 4 seconds. So a big thing that I see a lot is a kind of extended long action sequence at the start of a trailer, which is fine, but then you immediately kind of want to know what is the game, what am I
mm.
going to be doing? And that was the thinking behind that. You just have that really nice quick wipe, and then we go into it actually has the instructions on the screen from the game and says
Yeah,
defend yourself. I just
four
don't like. I
seconds
don't
in.
think you can be too literal in trailers, right? Like there's a lot of stuff in here
No,
which is
not.
quite literal.
And I think it's important to, within at least the first 5 seconds, to have like an idea of what exactly this game is. We've like 4 seconds in, we've already got gameplay in, and it's just you already know really what you're getting.
Mm.
Bunch of blokes want to beat up our main guy,
Yeah,
and they're gonna
that's all you
pay.
need to know.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. So then we had a bit of gameplay. Now, this was a section that you had to retake a few times, I believe, right?
Yeah, I
This
probably know it all off by heart. I got to the point where I was just like, okay, you turn around, punch, kick, heavy
Yeah,
strike.
but it works because and you had like a real challenge here because we wanted to show a solid kind of batch of gameplay, but also it had to be really fast and punchy,
Mm.
and so I think that rehearsal really paid off here because you get to see, I think it's two moves first, and then the guy goes back into the corner and you get that lovely close up on the sort of heavy
Yeah.
elbow strike. um so did you sort of know how you were going to get out of that section kind of early on, or did you sort of just you had it build up to the heavy strike and then that just happened to be nice and cinematic and you used that to get out?
It mainly started off with me starting a few builds and then seeing what cards were dealt and then go through that way. And I think James also helped out as well. He was like, right, we've done a nice little document here. This build will have a set of those cards of certain moves that we think suit best. And that was pretty much what helped us at the beginning.
Great. Yeah, so a bit of kind of gameplay planning first to show,
Mm.
what do you want to show and how can you do it, and then just rehearsal and practice and
Yeah.
kind of repeating to get that result. Then we've got this shot, which the pan round in the bathroom into the kind of punch that was in from the very first version, I
Yeah.
think. And yeah, wasn't that we had some idea of that being the opening shot, I think,
I think at the
originally,
beginning,
perhaps.
yeah, but
Yeah,
I think it might have been a bit too disorientating, that being the first thing you see.
yeah.
And we only get two of the characters. But yeah, that was one of the shots that did have the culling issue, and I had to retake loads of times over and over again with the controller. But yeah,
Fun
I really like
times.
this shot.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and that comes out of that really nicely as well. With again using the protagonist, it's helpful that our protagonist is solid black.
Yeah.
Uh, you can use him for screen transitions. That's a pro tip. Uh, that's cool. And then we go into another sequence of gameplay, and this sort of has to be necessarily kind of different. And at this point, I definitely felt like you started to be more liberal with the use of those close-ups. We were less worried about sort of establishing the gameplay because we felt like the viewer had an idea already, right?
Yeah, I think at this point it's just style.
Then we get the taunt, which we wanted to be the sort of that's the highlight of the midpoint, really. I think it's just something you need something in there that's a twist, that's variety that you haven't seen before. So that shot of the taunt is great, and also we've been rinsing that as a GIF because it's just so useful. So good. Cool. And then a little bit more gameplay. I think this was the section that was about getting into showing some metagame stuff. So to give you a hint that there's more outside the level. And that was a really tough balance as well. I remember kind of that was one of the things that we went back and forward on a fair amount, was how much can we show outside the main action, because it's not sort of
Yeah.
right. So this is the section that introduces the ambassador, and this is good because it shows some of the secondary gameplay. I didn't want people to just kind of assume that that was all there was to the game, and we get that nice close up there, and the close up of sort of shoving him. So yeah, this I felt was a lot more stuff coming together. And then you have your favorite transition with the split kick.
Yep, my favorite. That track, that cut was actually very hard to do because of just how crazy everything is going on there, and making sure everything is in shot.
And then we go through that nice bit of kind of card upgrading, which was really, really hugely important to get in there. And then really quickly, we're right through that sort of into this final montage. Now, all of this was from the original video, right?
Yeah.
A little hair wipe at the end. So that's a little tour through the trailer. I mean, I think it's just difficult to get that balance of showing action, showing kind of core gameplay, and showing UI. Some people sort of shy away from showing UI in trailers, like they want everything to be ultra slick. And I think that can work if your game is sort of fairly UI light in nature. So if it's a kind of like a crass example would probably be like a walking simulator that doesn't really have UI, or something where it's more about the world and kind of getting people into it narratively. But with the strategy game, I always think it's nice to show, you know, the nitty gritty of what the player was doing. And this was actually a bit of I think this was kind of a spur to get some of that UI done, right? Like I think some of that was sort of made around the time of the trailer.
I think a lot of, because our first initial drafts, they didn't have any UI at all, and I'm so glad that we do, because it just it puts it all together.
One nice thing about this is that we did get quite a few comments of people saying like, oh, it's nice that you showed what the game actually is, and I do think like the audience for this kind of game, they tend to be a bit more considerate, and they tend to be kind of planning people who want to sort of know things in detail, and they'll have detailed questions. So I think kind of going for that ended up, you know, working really well, and showing, you know, James's original idea was kind of into the breach with some Slay the Spire, and so to get those comments in from people, I think was really good. Yeah, so that's a trailer. I mean, I think even though it did take a while of kind of going back and forth, we got something that was really good, and you know, certainly on the PR side, we were happy to see that, you know, journalists were into it and wanted to sort of talk about it and you know, put it in news slots, and that's always the worry with an initial trailer. I think one other aspect of it was that we waited quite a long time, right? Because we had sort of early visuals and stuff that we were showing to people sort of behind the scenes for quite a while.
Yeah, we had a previous trailer to this one as well, didn't we? For another project event. I don't know if I can say what it was for.
Yeah, well, I got
which was very
anyway, so, yeah,
with everything else. Yeah, which is very different to also this one. I wonder if we can ever show it one day.
We could. You could put some clips in. You could, you know, we could leak that. I think that'd be fine. Yeah. So again, I think if you're trying to put together a trailer, then finding that impactful moment to kick it off, keeping it short, and then taking the player, you know, as progress through some real gameplay, show some UI in there, and then kind of wrap it up. You know, put more of that exciting stuff in at the end to kind of end on a high note, I think is really, really good. And your game doesn't have to be. You don't have to have a million art assets to do that. It's about making use of what you have. But the downside is, as you said, like it does take time to set those shots up and execute them.
Yeah, I think we were very lucky though, because we also had your insight. You'd be like, okay, this is really good, but we also need some of these bits. Like, you know, you were so precise with a lot of things that sometimes you need another set of eyes to see, because me and James will just be looking at it for so long that we don't see the little bits that need tweaking and stuff. So yeah, that's really important as well.
I think we are kind of lucky in this situation because, you know, I've been quite heavily involved with doing trailers for other things in the past, but I'm able to have that separation and just come into it completely cold. And to some extent, I think it almost helps to not know how much work certain things were, because then you can be a bit more, brutal about editing and sort of those tiny decisions. But I think if anything with that, I'm trying to improve on my clarity of how I express things, because the worst thing is when you have feedback that you read the feedback and you go, oh, that kind of makes sense, and then you go to do it and you're like, what do they want? And it causes you to second guess creatively. So having had that sort of done to me a lot, I try to be as
Yeah.
pragmatic about it. It's really hard. So just before we wrap up, I think it might be worth talking about some other marketing stuff that we're doing that you're involved with, and that would probably be the Discord, which is kind of where you've been spending a lot of your time. So
Yeah.
this is kind of an experiment for me, and also for you, although you've done community stuff in the past, right?
Yeah, I've done quite a few community things, but I've never dived so deep into a Discord project like this before. But
Right.
I'm really enjoying it. It's like the most fun I've had in ages.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
I think I get a bit too like, okay, but we got to do this and this, and then like,
Right.
yeah. Luckily, I have Jeremy, our QA, and audio guy at Grand Shatter to help me as well. So.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it seems that people are really kind of enjoying it. A couple of things that we've seen, I guess, that might be useful tips for others. So we have a bot running currently where people can they can do crime to earn money, which is a fantastic system. But we found some people kind of doing some naughty things with that already, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah,
I think-
yesterday we had some cheaters that could automatically, every 15 minutes, which is when the work command resets for our fake currency of our meta game. Join it if you don't know what are we on about. Join our Discord. It's great. Yeah, we found out that someone has a bot on their Discord user which goes !work every 15 minutes. And we only figured it out because our bot was down yesterday.
Yes. So that their attempts were thought by the bot. Yeah. So stuff like that, we've already had some sort of light moderation stuff. I mean, it's a shame to start on negative, actually. I was just trying to draw out a tip there, but because actually our community have been fantastic, and they've really been kind of bearing with the sort of construction work that's happening around the Discord metagame, as things go. People have been really getting into it. They just kind of want to do things.
Yeah, they're very patient and understanding. I think they understand that we're still new at all of this, and we've got, kinks to iron out and such.
Yeah. But it's definitely positive. I would say the thing about that is, if you're trying that stuff out for the first time, do some planning. We did do some planning, but don't be afraid to. Yeah, no, I know. Yes, and some of that was my fault. Don't be afraid to jump in and try it, because people are just looking for fun things to do on the server, right? They'll hang out on the server if there's any kind of challenge or any kind of. So the main thing that we're doing, we should probably tell people about, is the fights. So these are they're actually derived from an in-game setup, and then people kind of vote on what moves to choose, right? And that's been going pretty well, I think.
Yeah, we're going to be posting the next phase of each fight, just probably after I finish this call. But yeah, basically, it's just basically like playing the game before the game comes out, and you can react with emotes. So basically, you can be like, well, you have. It's more like D&D, isn't it? Esque.
Yeah. We ended up going in that direction where people can kind of make a choice between a couple of things and vote, and then we're going to bring money into that as well, because people are frantically earning money, so we already have
fake
economic
money.
Issues. Fake money, yes, of course.
Fake currency.
Should definitely. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, we're not running an illegal gambling server. So we've got that's all coming anyway, so yes, please do join that. Connie, thank you so much. I know you're super busy, but it's really nice to chat to you, and hopefully people will get something from this.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Join our Discord, join our Twitters. All the links will be down there, everywhere. Yeah.